Are we good yet? Live?
Looks like it.
All right. We have a few more seconds before 6 o'clock. Just so I will announce about Lori. All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
The workshop meeting of the Park District of Highland Park is called to order on Tuesday, February 9, 2021 at 6 o'clock p.m. Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Here.
Commissioner Flor-Swicekoff,
She will join us later.
okay. Vice President Kaplan,
I'm here.
and President Ruttenberg.
I am here, and as I said, I can't get the video to work on this site, but that's all right. We'll continue. Well, thank you. Let me ask if there are any additions to the agenda from any of the commissioners or from our staff.
No.
There are none. Thank you. Executive Director Romes, has anyone from the public submitted any emails to be read aloud for public comment?
No, they have not.
Thank you again. So then we'll move to the consent agenda that has items A through E. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right. Is there a second? Great. Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, also. The motion is carried. Excuse me. We will now go to the Sunset Woods Park presentation. Manager Schwartz and Hitchcock Design Group to present.
All right, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Before I pass it on to Hitchcock, Steve, you can start up or sharing your screen. I'll just give a quick intro. Tonight we are presenting the final concept plans for the Sunset Woods Park playground renovation and master plan. Oops, sorry, I lost my screen. So in December, Hitchcock Design Group presented the draft concept plans that were then shared with the community, along with a survey to collect feedback. In that survey, we heard from over 300 community members, and their feedback directly guided the refinements of the plan, which Steve Conters from Hitchcock Design Group is going to present tonight. After Steve's presentation, I'll give a brief recap of next steps of the project, and we will be happy to answer any questions. So with that, I will turn it over to Steve.
All right, great. Thanks, Amalia. Thanks everybody again for making time for us tonight. As you'll recall, we were before you a couple months back to review some information we received prior to design that the community provided some feedback about their preferences through several different phases of community outreach. And we had some preliminary concepts for you to review at that time as well. And so since then, we've kind of continued to advance the concept plans and get additional community input on those preliminary plans. And so we're really in the final stretch of the process here that'll just take us through the remainder of February. And so after presenting this information with you tonight, the final plans as a draft version will go back out to the community via the website. Just for final reference and any comments the community might have. And from there, we'll provide the final plans and sort of get you lined up to move into final design phase for the playground renovation, which is scheduled to occur, this spring, and with the actual construction not being until late summer or fall of this same year. So with that, the input that we received from the community on the preliminary plans, as Amalia kind of hinted to there as well, we had over 350 responses, you could see there. So quite a lot of people participated. We asked several different questions of the plans, and so the information that came back, you can see the list on your screen there about what elements were most supported from the community survey on those preliminary plans with these elements here. And so when we get to the plans, you'll see all these elements incorporated, and we'll go through these in more detail then. And we also asked people to sort of rank their priorities. So while they supported this larger list, the top priorities here, you can see splash pad and adult fitness were two high ranked items, renovation of your existing buildings, as well as the band shell feature were some higher priorities. When it came to the playground, we did ask the community to kind of select what their preferred theme was. You might recall we had a solar theme that incorporated the idea of a rocket ship continuing on in the playground, along with a nature inspired theme. And you can kind of see here, while more people sort of chose the nature inspired, it still was kind of relatively close. And we'll talk about how that influenced the final concepts when we get there. And with the playground and master plan together, when we were asking what people thought was most important here, they felt the tower structure of the 5 to 12 aged area, the multi-deck structure for the 2 to 5, some embankment slides and climbers, and the sand play station. So again, when we get to the plans, you'll see all that information incorporated. And then we had some general comments. And so of all the general comments received, which there were many, a few that were most typical were people really being concerned about seeing the potential addition of another parking lot to the north. And so you'll see that is actually omitted in the plan now when we get there. The fact that it's very important to the community that we're maintaining the natural and open character of the park, as well as there was some preferences to keep all the tennis courts, including those that had clay surfaces. So with that, we'll go through the playground first. So when we get to the themes, the decision really, partly because of the community input, but also as we talk with staff, the fact that your playgrounds now are 4 unique playgrounds, the idea was, well, then rather than having both the 5 to 12 age group area and 2 to 5 age group area have the same theme, continue on with that idea of all 4 playgrounds being unique within the park. And basically knowing that people were supporting both ideas of the theme, we said, well, and the rocket ship being probably one of the more important things to the community, is let's use the solar system theme for the 5 to 12 age group area and go with the nature inspired theme for the 2 to 5 age group area. So with that, here's the overview of the plan. We'll go into some enlargements in a minute that'll show you a little bit more detail. But so we've got the 5 to 12 age group area, as you call the 2 to 5 age group area here. And so phase 1 of the playground renovation that would occur this year is intended to do some improvements to the pathways in between these two activity, both to the pathways in both locations, the parking lot, and between the playgrounds themselves. Now, there is a future phase still proposed that shows up in the master plan for incorporating a more detailed seating plaza area between these to kind of really create a nice anchor between these play areas and provide people a gathering space that isn't necessarily committed to either one of these play areas in general, but has nice proximity to those as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the master plan too, because this is one of the proposed locations where you could consider a spray pad instead of a seating plaza, but we'll talk about that in a minute. With that, I'm going to move on to the enlargements here. So here's the 5 to 12 age area. And you'll probably recall from the last presentation, these images that we're showing are not the exact equipment that are being selected this time. This is, again, there's a concept plan. And this is just to represent the idea of what type of features these playgrounds would include. Of course, there was a lot of priority set on really the tower structure and the fact that people like the idea of maintaining the idea of a rocket ship theme. And so we're continuing with that. The idea of a large net climber, which can accommodate many kids all at once. We've got the grade changes between what is the swing area up here and the lower area. And on those grade changes, rather than just having a wall, it'd be a sloped poured in place surface, which can have all sorts of features on it, climbers and slides, as well as having the idea of like a group spinner, and even a group swing in this area to go along with the standard belt swings. The color differences that you're seeing in the plan is that the tan represents still that from a budgeting perspective, that this would still likely be engineered wood fiber surfacing up in the swings, but that we'd incorporate some poured in place rubber surfacing, specifically in the key area, the most active area of the playground. The lighter blue is kind of where it may be engineered wood fiber or poured in place rubber. That's going to really be more of a budget decider probably during bidding. But you know, the hope is that we can expand the poured in place throughout that entire area of the playground. Moving to the 2 to 5 area, you can see here we are still incorporating sand play. And with both of these, we're still continuing to work with some of the stone wall features out there. So the intent is to maintain and restore some of the stone walls here because of the great character that they add to these spaces. And with that, there's a small seating area that's kind of in within this, sort of between these two areas of the 2 to 5. We are still fencing this in. So just like it has a fence now, the new playground will have a new fence with some new landscaping on the inside, but have plenty of sort of hardscape to let people circulate around the playground within the fenced location. The features we're talking about here are the swings off to this side, the idea of standard belt swings, but also the tandem swings are very popular and was a high supported item. In addition to the sand play, people talked about this sort of multi-deck, smaller 2 to 5 age group multi-deck structure, and then some type of play dome feature along with a sort of a house, a sort of a sand play house element, as well as some type of balancing feature. Again, these are just conceptual equipment for this stage in the process. And then looking at the budget, this isn't too much different than the last time we brought this before you, but there's been some minor changes to it. But the site construction, which you know, is all the drainage, the earthwork, the removals, the pavement, the support elements, all of those are estimated in the 450 range. During final design, we'll need to get some testing done and some soil analysis, so we've got a budget in there for that. The purchase of the play equipment, of course, is a pretty large component of this budget because we are looking to make sure that we have the ability to get some semi-custom and custom features within some of the standard equipment as well. And because this is preliminary planning, once we go to final design, there are many things that are difficult to sort of estimate in the preliminary stages. So we always have kind of a project contingency to cover those unknowns that'll be figured out during final design and engineering. And then of course the cost to go through the design engineering process. And so these are all the budget numbers, which kind of give you that total there, just in that 1.1 to 1.2 range. So with that, we're going to move on to the park master plan, and then we'll come back for questions for everybody. So this was the one that was presented to you back on December 9th. And we just wanted to start with this one for a quick reference so you could identify, so we could sort of highlight the changes. We talked about the fact that people had concerns about the idea of the addition of this north parking lot. So you'll see that's being omitted. There was some further advancement of the idea of where this plaza and potential spray pad would be. The thought that maybe even trying to bring it a little bit closer to the playgrounds to have a better relationship there. You'll see that, as well as primarily between these two areas. The changes are that adult fitness was such a high ranked item for the community. The thought was that if we bring it up into this area here, that you may be able to get to it in earlier phases, where if it's down in this corner, this is dependent on the ball field being repurposed, which is dependent on other improvements of your fields throughout the district. And so you'll notice that change as well, along with volleyball going away as one of the lower priority items. So with that, let me come to the new plan here, and I could zoom in on any of these areas if you want, but we're going to have enlargement slides in a minute for you. So as we said, that adult athletic fitness came up to this area, and we'll see that in the enlargement, which allowed this area to kind of get smaller in footprint and provide a little bit more open space to this side of the pathway. You can see the spray pad and plaza location kind of shifted from a little bit further away to this side of these two path systems here. So there's a little bit more close proximity to the playground and not as far from the parking lot, but still kind of trying to take advantage of the open space that exists sort of in this little nook within your wooded area as well. And then we're still incorporating the idea of, while we're not adding a north parking lot, still expanding the width and adjusting the width of this parking lot. So you could have both two-way parking, improving the entrance areas, adding spaces, adding a drop-off zone, improving the pedestrian access. And this drop-off area can be a multi-purpose space that can be also striped for parking, so that if you were to stripe this, while you have 118 parking spaces now, you get a few more plus the drop-off area, dedicated drop-off area with the improvements, And then if you park the drop-off area, you can get even another additional 22 cars. So, this is improving parking while giving you a dedicated drop-off zone. With that, let me sort of move on to some of the enlargements so you can see some information in more detail. So here we are kind of in that southwest corner where you've got, community input did come back that we talked about the tennis courts being important, maintaining the clay surface and the hard surface courts, so renovating these. The basketball multi-purpose court, the old one that is down in the southeast corner would get removed and the new one would come up in this location along with the new adult fitness. So this really becomes more of kind of a court sport adult focus area. And then we're still showing that we did in the last plan, the idea of a small sort of depressional rain garden that will be able to handle some small stormwater storage as well. And then improving and enhancing the entrance to the park, not just the entrance to the parking lot, but also the connection to that adjacent neighborhood. So now moving over to the southeast corner, as we talked about with the adult fitness being able to come out of here, this was able to be a little more of a consolidated footprint. So we're still showing that idea of what we call the wheeled friendly plaza, which is kind of a multi-purpose space so that kids on scooters and skates can come here and use some of that equipment. But at other times, it can also be used for just a general seating area or for events or programs with some shade structures here as well as some of the seat walls. And we also received input that even though we were adding the wheeled friendly plaza with the skate park, the old skate park going away, people still wanted to see a dedicated skate park. So we are still representing a smaller dedicated skate park area that'd be a little bit more tucked into the landscape and the earth. So it'll be a little more organic construction there as far how that fits into the site. And then we're still representing the idea that bicycle and scooter pump track that we talked about, which is kind of a nice complementary use for these types of features, but it just got a little bit smaller in its footprint as well. And here's that oak tree plaza that also had a lot of support to create nicer entrance experience, wayfinding, and kind of a seating overlook, and take advantage of that sort of unique oak tree in that specific area there. Moving kind of north within the site, we've got that central area. So we did talk about improvements to the pathway that exists now. That's a main corridor between the neighborhood into the park and to the downtown. Continue to enhance the alignment of that pathway, widen it, improve the pavement surfaces, add new lighting along with some bench seating throughout the process. And then adding the idea of a amphitheater and bandshell area, but more of a natural character to maintain that idea of that people sort of preserving the natural character of this whole north area. But also this can be a multi-purpose space as well, and not, be used for like outdoor classes. And then the renovation, we talked about the renovation of the field house, which is further south, but also the idea of renovation for this existing building and restroom area to enhance that for program use as well. And then the new, we talked about the spray pad being, possibly one location to continue to evaluate is near the playground, sort of where that seating plaza was shown, but this would be a secondary area to consider for your spray pad. Either way, whichever location that spray pad might end up, the vision is that it's a multi-purpose space that when not being used as a spray pad can be used as a seating area or just other hard surface for events. And then the last thing to kind of point out on this here is, that there's still a desire for improved access to kind of these features, especially for camp. And we know this is a challenging slope here, so we're just start representing some realignment of a new path system to make sure that we can get an accessible route directly from the parking lot and drop-off zone to these north areas, and then of course maintaining the connection out through the neighborhood as well. The final slide for the park master plan here is the far north area. We're continuing to just represent that the path system and the natural area is maintained kind of as is, but then we're kind of improving the utilization of this open space to the north along Park Avenue by creating a nicer little seating plaza with some shade pergolas, some enhanced landscaping, and which would also sort of offer the opportunity to sort of do a memorial garden in this space as well. From a phasing standpoint, this phasing plan is really sort of representing the idea of community input, staff guidance, as well as just trying to think through logically where, what makes the most sense to maybe tackle first. And so from a color coding standpoint, what we are sort of calling out as high priority are the red, moderate priority is the blue, and lower priority is the green. We categorize it this way to kind of continue to provide some flexibility as to saying exactly steps 1 through 20. You know, it may be, you know, depending on what your availability is of funding and other resources, what of these pieces might come first in the high priority or the medium priority. So that's kind of how we categorized it for you guys there. So the high priority items you can see are the improvements to the existing parking lot to have dedicated drop off, more parking, improve circulation, and better connectivity and safer connectivity into the park and through to the neighborhood, along with improving the tennis courts, adding a new basketball court to replace the older one here, and having that adult fitness, which was kind of a higher ranked item as well. And then the plaza in between the playgrounds, especially since these playgrounds are moving forward with renovation in 2021, you know, the improvement of that plaza area, and whether that spray pad ends up over in this location or this location, that was also a high ranked item. That leads to kind of your medium priority items here, which are in the blue, which are the renovations of the buildings, the field house here, and the restroom building in this location, the addition of the amphitheater and multi-purpose kind of outdoor classroom space, as well as the improvement of that main corridor through the park, connecting the neighborhood and the downtown. And then really this area becomes the lower priority, partially because of input, also because of the fact that this is influenced by having to repurpose this field for these elements to be able to have room here. And that's obviously tied to other improvements throughout the district that aren't specific to this park. And so these areas kind of become the lower priority along with the northern area right along Park Avenue. And with that, the estimates that we did sort of broken out by those areas are here. You kind of see the detail of the south parking we talked about, the sport courts, which are the multi-purpose courts and the tennis courts and the adult athletics, the playground plaza, the spray pad, the main walk, amphitheater area, and those lower priorities kind of down here in that reach. So, you know, so we're just in that sort of just under the 5 million range, you know, 4.8 to 4.9. This is mostly the site improvements. So this does not include what the renovations would be, the interior renovations to your field house and your north shelter area. Because those are building renovations, we felt that might take a little bit more evaluation to really understand those costs. And so we kind of focused on the park costs in this budget estimate here. So with that, I'll open up for your questions and we can kind of go back. Before I unshare the screen, I'll keep it shared for now in case you'd like me to go back to any of the data.
Great, thank you very much for the presentation. Would we like to hear our staff commentary about this plan before we, the commissioners, ask comments or questions? I mean, I certainly would.
That's fine.
All right, why don't, since we have two out of, we don't know how many. Amalia, Jeff, Steve, anybody who is engaged in this project, we'd like to have your opinions and commentary about the plan and, you know, your dealings with the public also.
Sure. So we've, like I said, I think this plan really reflects what we heard from the community and additionally what we heard from staff. We have a staff task force that we've convened to review these plans at the various milestones throughout the design process. I'll say I think that we heard that there are some challenges with parking. And so we were looking for different ways to address that. And what we heard from the community loud and clear is the interest in really preserving the open space. And that was important. So we looked to stay within the footprint of the existing parking so that we would minimize impact to trees. I think I'm trying to think about all the other comments to highlight here. We've heard a lot of interest from staff regarding renovating or looking at improvements to our indoor facilities to enhance capacity in our for our programs, particularly our camp programs. So I think those renovations that are suggested here are supported by staff, as well as the splash pad and the outdoor classroom amphitheater area. The wheel-friendly plaza area really highlights, or rather highlights, it provides something that I think this park is intended to be an intergenerational park, and that area really provides a teen space. So that was something we heard. And that other section, the court section, really provides and recreation for our older population, our adult population. So this park really, the plan emphasizes and honors the nature of the park, the existing recreation, and then also the intergenerational, celebrating an intergenerational downtown park that really is our destination signature park. And then the last thing I'll add is the improvements to the access, the pedestrian access, and the different connectivity nodes is aligned with the city's Move HP plan and general enhancing walkability within the downtown. I don't know, Jeff or Brian, if you have any other comments that I didn't highlight that we heard from staff.
Unless you do, Jeff, I think, Amaya, you hit on everything that I would have said.
I agree as well. Thank you.
Good, great. So commissioners, Cal, are you still available?
Yeah, I'm here. I may be a while, so do you want me to lead off, or does someone else want to go in front of me? Because
Well, I think you should go, because you did say you might have to step away for a while. So why don't you go first?
All right, I've been taking notes, and I really appreciate all the work, the hard work that's gone into this and the plans. You know, I'll address my remarks more as comments. I'm not a liaison to this group, so this is really, I'm just seeing these at the board meetings. So these are going to be my comments with regard to what I'm seeing here. Obviously, as born and bred in Highland Park, it's, you know, Sunset Park is it's paternal almost. It's like, you know, and most of the community feels that way. They feel like it's the main park in the town. It's our central park, and they feel like a certain kinship to it. And one of the things I think makes that park special is that how the different things that we do as a park district interact. It's an active recreation with the playgrounds and the ball fields and the tennis courts, the basketball courts. It's passive in that there's a lot of tree areas where people just can hang out. And then there's also the natural area, which is, people don't even realize it's there, which is along Park Avenue, which allows natural trails. So it's all in one park. And so my concern with what the plan is, it seems too busy and too ambitious. I think that one of the things that the park affords us, like as I said, the two iconic things that I look at this park are, number one is the spaceship, which you're looking to renovate and which I think is iconic to this community. But also it's the open space, it's the great lawn, it's the green space that the field is, which serves as not only ball fields for baseball and football and ice skating in the winter, but also as a community gathering place during the summers for 4th of July. And I think it's what we're trying to do here is it would encroach into that openness, that when you come down that path from Green Bay Road, or you come in from the post office, you see that open expanse. And I kind of feel like what we're doing on the east side of this park really detracts from that ambiance. So breaking it down.
Are you specifically talking about the southeast corner?
Yes, the southeast corner. I think
Okay.
that's just too busy, and it detracts from, I think, the great lawn that the whole community feels is their backyard. With regard to the southwest area, I know that I assume in this juncture of planning, you have not engaged a civil engineer to look at this, but there are some grading issues over there. There is some low areas. It's very wet. And I appreciate the fact that you're trying to incorporate a rain garden in there to try to work almost as stormwater detention for that area. But my concern is twofold about that. Number one is that you're trying to pack too much active recreation so close to the street and so close to the neighborhood. So therefore, you're basically creating more density there and more. I realize that, if someone who's used that park, for many years, that that open field, that small little open field, they use it for soccer. You see a lot of soccer playing there. I'm talking about directly north of the tennis courts. You see a lot of pickup soccer games going on there. So I guess that will go away with this idea. But it's a lot of active use close to the parking lot, close to the street. I'm not advocating one way or the other, but from a planning perspective, I think we have to be sensitive that we're not trying to pack too much close to the street and therefore close to the neighborhood. I talked about the grading issues. I'm concerned about water in that area. That's for smarter people than me to try to figure that out. With regard to the splash pad, I realized it was a high priority. My concern is whether it's practical or not. I'm concerned about the infrastructure that's needed in order to bring the water there, the maintenance, and the long-term viability of this. It looks like we're gonna have to run a lot of water lines to try to get it wherever you want to put it. And I'm concerned that we potentially could be creating a white elephant with the splash pad. What I do like about the plan is I think that, and I agree with this, the connectivity is the most important thing. One of the things that, and I really like the idea of promoting that, of trying to make the trails kind of interact better than they do currently. And I also think that all of the entrances, both should not be neglected. So there's entrances to the north, there's entrances from the east, there's entrances from the south. There's a lot of different ways to access this park, and I would want to make sure that all of those entrances are inviting and that it leads to connectivity of all the trails that are in there. So it's one interconnected park, even though it's again, active, passive, and also a natural park. And let me try to see if I think pretty much those are my comments. And I appreciate the hard work. I know it's not easy to do what your guys are doing because you're hearing a lot of input from a lot of different people and a lot of different, but that's what we do with planning. And I appreciate the hard work, and I look forward to seeing this plan as it evolves.
Great, thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Okay, great. Thank you. Terry?
Yeah.
Remember, Terry, so everyone remembers, Terry was with Lori was one of our liaisons to the planning process.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Again, I find this to be clear as to our intentions, and I liked it, especially when we focused in more on the individual sections of the park. I do want to. I wasn't planning on this, but since Commissioner Bernstein mentioned it, the southeast corner has always been my biggest concern in terms of just how that would look, how it was shaped. Originally, it was going to be even a larger imprint on there until they ended up moving out the adult fitness area over to the southwest. My impression, I thought that the last time we met, that we had decided to keep that third ball field. Was that ever a thing? No, I don't know why I have a memory of that. Is there a way to do what you need to do in that southeast corner and keep that third ball field? I mean, it always seems like we're struggling for fields and people are looking for fields. I thought we were recovering that one.
Yeah, Terry, and I know that Steve sort of hinted at our other athletic field management strategy, which actually is just another, obviously, a management document that we have that includes future planning efforts, including the possibility of turf fields. And so what this does is this plans that if that plan does get enacted at some point, that would definitely this field is pretty underutilized. It's great open space, but from a utilization standpoint, it really wouldn't serve as great of a need with the addition of the turf fields if that ever comes to fruition. So really, this is a last phase approach. I think it's lowest on the priority list, but it did address a lot of the feedback. Pump tracks are sort of high trending right now, and wheel-friendly plazas. And I think that the concept here was multi-use. It could be used for many different reasons. But again, this is just an option that would be up for further discussion once that baseball, once the turf field, if that came to fruition and this opened up as an opportunity. So,
Okay.
So it's these are options to consider.
Okay.
Based on the survey results that we got.
Okay. And then also to follow up with something that Commissioner Bernstein mentioned, the activities that were going on now that are in that corner, in the southwest corner. I did ask about that myself, that I felt like it's going to get pretty busy over there. Amalia, I thought you had a pretty good answer for that. I wanted to give you an opportunity here, perhaps, or maybe Brian, to address that with the neighbors.
Sure. So we tested this option out in the survey, and this option of bringing the basketball court to this corner was preferred. Some of the comments that we heard were around the basketball court in its current location is kind of hidden, it's tucked away, and can invite some negative behavior. So there is some interest in bringing that basketball court out of the shadows, I guess, so to speak. And the location that we're recommending right now offers the opportunity to utilize the existing lighting that's already there. There's lighting for the tennis courts, there's lighting for the field. So it is activating an area that is already pretty active, and kind of addressing some of those concerns that we did hear from the neighbors.
Right. And to further, I'm just going to keep piggybacking on Cal's comments. The water retention area has always been a part of the plan because of either the volleyball court or whatever that was going to go there, or pickle courts or whatever. So that was always going to be a plan. Are we looking at a pond there? Is that what it is? Or is it just a area where water, like, what if we have like one of these 5-year storms? What am I looking at? What does that look like there by the parking lot then?
So I'm going to give you kind of a two-pronged answer on that there. First off, the intent is that it is to be sort of a dry rain garden area, not standing water. And so that it'll be a low area that'll have plantings that'll allow the water to kind of collect and infiltrate. The second part of that answer, though, is that it's difficult during this planning phase to provide you a little more detailed answers about how it would function. But the intent, based on how we've seen many of these, function, is that there's likely going to be some level of stormwater infrastructure associated with it. In our area, the soils just don't, while they might allow for low flow infiltration for low ray events, if you do get, like you're talking about, a bigger storm, It really needs some supportive infrastructure of drainage to help that water get out of there, and it can't just rely on it infiltrating through the soil. So what we do in some of these instances is we sort of try to design that sub drainage system to, again, allow the low and medium flows to get out of there pretty quickly. But if you have a really high event, yeah, it might be wet or marshy for, like a 24 to 48 hour period or something like that. But again, I'm just talking about concepts of how they work. More engineering would obviously have to be done to really determine how this one for you would specifically function. But the intent is to be a dry planted area that might just be, sort of wet at times, but not standing water.
So it's at grade though. It's not going to be a ditch. Everything's going to be below the level of this plantings, like the water, am I walking down a little bit to get into that?
Yeah, it would have to be a depressed area, a slightly depressed
Okay.
area. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep walking around the park. So I've gone southeast to southwest. Now I'm coming up north, and we're talking once again regarding Cal's. This is something we had never really talked about, but Cal is more in this planning business. With regards to the water for the splash pads, what is the need there? Are there pipes? Do we connect to something else? How does that work?
Right. So to what Cal was kind of indicating there is wherever you put your spray pad, you're going to need to bring three different utilities to it. It's going to need water service, obviously, to provide the water for the spray features. It's going to need storm drainage, because this is budgeted. There's two types of, not to get into too much detail, but there's two basic types of spray grounds. One they call drain to waste, which is what most people typically do because it's lower cost, where the water comes out of your city water and then it drains to a storm sewer system. The second type is recirculating. That's just a much more costly type. So basically you need your water service, your stormwater connection for the drainage, and then you need power, because some of the features, the vault system for most systems requires some power for the controller that controls when the features can go on and off of the timer. So those three utilities need to be brought to it. The storm drainage is going to be relatively close in the area because of the parking lot drainage that exists, and knowing that we're going to need to be installing some drainage to the playgrounds. The water is something that we'll need to, sort of look at where's the best place to take it from. But again, knowing that you had a water feature out there before in the playground, from what I recall, that just hasn't worked for several years. So water is somewhere in that vicinity. And then power, of course. So yes, the further into the park that the spray ground is located, the farther you have to take those utilities to it.
Yeah, because a point was made about the location of the splash pad, because especially parents of younger kids are not necessarily going to want to walk by the splash pad to get to the playground. If a kid sees all those happy kids running through the water, they're not going to want to avoid that, where a parent might want them to be going with blinders on there. So I do know that is a kind of a parental political issue there. My final question is right in that same area, and it has to do with the future plans for a plaza between the two parks. Was there any plan in this plan to provide seating that could be added to later, or not? I mean, is it just going to be a walkway area?
So this is the phase one plan for the playground, and so you can see those walk connections we talked about. But yeah, so it is intended that there will be space for seating kind of near the entries, specifically because this is going to be a fenced-in area for the 2 to 5. That there's a little circular area here that's meant to be a little seating area for some tables and benches, along with people being able to sort of sit around the perimeter. And then specific to this 5 to 12 area, Some of the walls that are that are going to be maintained will kind of be of the level to be seat walls, but yeah, we would certainly put incorporate benches around here. As far as this being able to be expanded, even if this didn't become, the future playground plaza, you could certainly still expand this in some fashion for additional seating, but this is currently the vision being proposed for that expanded.
Right. It's just a walkway for right now. Pathways, there are no plans in this phase to put in any kind of benches or walls or anything to sit on, knowing that we could incorporate those into a future plan.
This first phase will have some benches and walls for seating,
Okay,
but mostly within these footprints, not out in this.
not out there. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Brian Kaplan.
Yes, I've got a couple comments. First, I love the plan, Steve. You guys, you and Maya staff did a great job. When Cal was talking about it being too busy, and I'm looking at the slide that's up here, are we adding more volume of equipment or play areas than we already have?
Go ahead, Brian. I'll let you.
Well, the only thing I was gonna say is the obvious two additions are the adult fitness area and the pump track. There's already a basketball court. It's just in a different location.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about just in general. It doesn't look like we're adding that much more to the park, or am I missing something?
Yeah, just the adult.
I was going to say, one of the things that we heard from the community throughout the various feedback sessions was this interest in not overbuilding the park. So we did really take that into consideration. I know Steve and his team did as well.
And the answer is no, it's the same volume, square footage of usage space as there is now.
I'm not sure if it's exact square foot one-to-one, but it was something that we did consider. And I think like Steve and Brian were alluding to, the adult fitness, I would say, is like the main ad, as well as maybe the splash pad. But their square footage, I guess, is relatively minimal. And then we're kind of just repurposing existing spaces. It was a consideration when we were planning.
Yeah.
So one of the things that this plan looks like it's taking away is the third baseball field. And there's usually a fourth when the smaller kids are playing, where the seasonal ice rink is.
Which remains. That it's just this.
Right, I understand. I've never been out there with the smaller kids when the third field was not in use. Are we losing too much by taking a whole field away?
So I think Brian alluded to this. We're not intending on taking this field away unless and until the athletic field master plan is implemented. And through that management plan, we determined that if those strategies were to be implemented, this field would likely be, I think I understand it's currently relatively underutilized. It wouldn't be needed for programming. So the intent.
Where is the basis that it's underutilized?
I'll let Brian answer.
Yeah, I mean,
Brian, I can speak to specific to baseball if you'd like.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so that field, underutilized may not be the correct term, at no fault of anybody. I don't know that in its current state it's actually usable, is more so of the concern. The demographics of which we're acquiring baseball players are older than which that field in its current state can actually support, due to the fact that it's a grass infield. It's the only field of that sort in that location, and it provides a lot of problems for us. So one of the potential considerations could be, if that field were to remain, is to make it a skin infield so it can be better utilized. But at this point, it's not necessarily ever needed due to the fact that we have the Kniffs, the Westridge fields, et cetera, at our disposal.
I agree with moving the basketball court by the tennis court. but are we going to get complaints from older tennis players if there are a lot of kids playing basketball being noisy, which
We talked about that. We've added a landscaped area in between the two to mitigate that. I think we've talked about, there are other examples where this exists in a lot of other districts, having the courts close by. So there is precedent for having courts.
oh,
adjacent to one
I
another.
think it belongs there and it looks good there.
So the way we are addressing that concern, because we heard it from staff that we think that may be something we hear, is by putting a landscape buffer in between.
Okay. And I will piggyback on what Cal said. The retention area, there's always kids playing soccer there, kids and adults.
So one thing I'll mention is we're proposing that the basketball court be a multi-use court, which could potentially support like futsal or different types of soccer activity.
Okay.
Because I think we recognize that there is that occurs at the park and may be displaced with the drainage, the rain garden.
And one other thing I'd add to that is even though maybe some of the questions that are coming up about the concern of that area aren't just because of its wetness and hey, how are you going to have some features here when there's a wet area, but that we're taking away some open space by putting some features there and then creating the retention area. Even if we weren't putting like the adult fitness there per se, as you move through phasing of improvements through this park, you are likely going to need to have some additional stormwater detention regardless, just because as parks are improved, codes are new and updated, and you need to start to meet those updated codes where it's kind of pretty evident that when this park was originally built, there was no significant area for stormwater detention. And so even if you weren't putting hard surface improvements there, that area would still be a likely good candidate to take out of turf and put specifically for more managed stormwater purposes, whether it's native plantings or not. That's one of the areas that just because of it's low and it's already wet, so there'll likely be an impact to the ability to play there just from a stormwater perspective, even if there weren't courts being put there. Just something to keep in mind.
As I said, I still think it's a great project. You guys did a great job.
Let's note for the record that Lori has joined us. I don't know if Lori's live and connected, but I know that she should be here.
Yeah, I'm on, and I just want to say I can't believe you guys started without me.
We didn't. All right. Lori, is there any comments you'd like to make to the plan?
Yeah, the only thing is I'm not sure if Terry had a chance to share with the group something that he and I went back and forth with this afternoon. One of the probably most crucial aspects of this renovation is parking and access to this wonderful park. It was suggested and the survey had us adding 18 additional spots to the current parking area, which is what I remember as like the drop off for camp where the buses would go. And, we had concerns about any trees there. I drove by, I took a picture, saw that there was a real big tree, wasn't comfortable with it, shared it with Terry. Terry said the same thing. Yeah, we can't touch that tree. So I shared that with our executive director and staff, and they agreed to that we couldn't cut down that tree. So that option for parking is no longer available. So if we can be more creative, like I said, I think parking is important as long as we're not touching the green space.
Thank you. I would like to see, in response to a couple of the questions, how much of the proposed improvements, like an overlay of the proposed improvements to what we have currently at this park, to see how much green is taken away, or where the improvements are and where they now compared to where they're going to be. I agree with everything that Cal, I don't know if Cal's still on, everything Cal said. So I'm not going to repeat those things. I would like to see the survey because I understand the intergenerational concept, but how many people in Highland Park want us to build the pump track and the skate park? You know, is it really going to be servicing the community the way we would want it to be? I honestly don't know what the adult fitness facility is composed of and what its utilization would be. It's taking up an area that maybe we don't need to do. I don't know. You know, I've seen in other parks where adult fitness is scattered around a park and you go from station to station, and I don't know how much that's ever used. I would like to make sure that a parent with children of two different ages using two different parts of the playground would be able to supervise both children at the same time, so those facilities cannot be too far away. I don't know what they are right in this plan. I agree with the comments about the splash pad. If we're going to have it, I don't want it where it's located. And my other comment is, and this isn't negative, by the way, I'm just giving observations. My other comment is the area shown to the north on Park Avenue with the pergola structure and plaza making a grand entrance. We also have another entrance slightly west of that. And my point would be, why can't we use that as basically overflow parking? You know, maybe we could get 25 cars in there and it's an overflow parking lot that when we have an event, we open up. You know, beyond that, every comment that Cal had, I share, and I'm not going to go any further at this point.
Arnie, I have two more things if you have a chance.
Sure, go ahead, Cal.
I'm sorry. When you're looking at this, I know eventually you're going to engage a civil. It's very wet on the south side of the park behind Sunset 2 ball field, between the ball field and the tennis court, and then along that south, along the path along the right there. It's very wet there. So if there's something can be done to address the water there, that would be appreciated, whether it's a rain garden, additional type of sewers or something that could be done to address that. The second thing is along Park Avenue, I'd be very adverse, I should say. I mean, I really love the natural area to the north, and I think that by trying to insert that plaza there, I think it kind of may detract from the just the natural woods of Sunset Woods right there. It makes it a little bit too commercial, I would say, but those would be my only two other comments.
Cal, that's an existing ball field.
Where
the
right here
pergola structure and the plaza.
It's an existing backstop.
Yeah,
backstop. Yeah, but it's
I shouldn't have dignified it with the word ball field, but when I was a kid, that's what we'd play on.
They play stickball there.
That was Park District property. I thought that was part of the apartment buildings next door.
No, that's ours.
Oh, it is? Okay.
That's where they would hit the little stick with the wheel and they would play stickball out there and do all that kind of stuff.
And Cal, to your comment about connectivity, this really allows a north entry that's not so inconspicuous. Like you didn't know that it was part of the park. So this would be some way to enhance it so that it provides entry to the park from the north side.
Yeah, never mind. I thought you were taking woods away to put that plaza in, but I didn't realize you were talking about that little orphan ball field that's over there. So as a famous person that said, never mind.
But we should also point out that there's another entrance from the north.
Yeah,
right opposite the hospital entrance.
And that one's the one that's surrounded by woods. It's very much like integrated into the natural area.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? I spoke to Brian, Executive Director Brian, earlier today and requested a paper copy of the master plan to be sent to each of the commissioners so that they could study it, and if they have comments, it might be easier for them to look at it from that perspective. And also, again, I would ask how much of the open grass, call it whatever you want, is going to be converted to some type of covered surface with this new plan? How much of the natural ground are we losing?
We'll
We can
provide a
work that
visual.
up. Yeah, we can work that up for you guys.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments?
So I'm just a little unclear, with this, what's being proposed now for this area where we call it the ball field or the stick field? Because currently it's
Passive.
green, because I've seen, I know I saw the,
It's just a passive area. That's it.
Yeah.
okay. So what were we saying about parking over there?
I suggested it might be a place where you could put, just put a driveway in so people with a chain, and people could park there when we had significant events and you need to add some additional parking, not to use it as parking every day. I wouldn't pave it.
So it still stay green now, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's something to consider since we're gonna lose those 18 parking spots we thought we had.
Yeah, and Lori, I know you weren't here for the beginning, and this was an update since we last met. Steve did give an update on how many spaces it adds by that drop-off area when camp's not in session. It adds another 22 spaces, plus the widening of the area adds about, I guess, 4 spaces. So there are a total of 26, I think, spaces added. It's not, a tremendous amount, but it's definitely more. And we're really challenged in this area, no doubt. And so parking is a challenge. And right now, that is one of the best solutions that we've kind of come up with. But these are all great comments and all great feedback as we go forward.
So,
Would it be-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had planned to provide a brief recap on our next steps if you'd like me to go through that. at this time.
Sure, but as I said, let's make sure that the commissioners have a chance to get a paper copy and do it, because we're starting to move forward. And if I can understand it, Amalia, the real important part of this plan for us to consider and approve is the play area.
Right. So at this point, Hitchcock has provided the schematic design for the playground and the opinion of cost. So that kind of brings us to the end of this phase. So we're going to be sharing these plans on the website. The community is going to have opportunity to comment. And then we expect to come back to the park board on February 28th with a contract proposal for the final design.
Final design for
Playground. So
for the
just,
playground. Okay.
Steve, can you flip to that phase 1? So at that point, that's bringing us to the next step in the playground renovation project, which is to develop construction drawing documents, final design development, construction documents, and then eventually release an invitation for bid to start construction summer.
Okay, so what you're
Yes,
looking.
that is the piece that we're looking. That's,
Okay.
That's the approval.
All right.
And then as far as the master plan, these are the schematic concept plans for the master plan. We have an opinion of cost, which you've seen today.
Yes.
These plans will also go to the community and will be available for community comment. And then within the next month, we expect to come back to the board with a proper kind of full document or package master plan that will include a written component as well. So that'll come a little bit after the playground. So the most immediate would be the playground so that we can move into final design to stay on schedule for construction this year.
Okay, Amalia, could you go to the part of the presentation that shows the phasing?
Of the master plan?
The one, is this the one, the high priority?
Yeah.
All right, so this is showing us the I'm sorry, A through D but are you saying that A through D is not part of our initial this
No.
year approval?
No, so even the playgrounds aren't highlighted here because they are not, they're almost considered separate from the master plan because those renovations were always intended to move forward. The master plan was intended to be a planning effort to ensure that the playground renovations were happening in a kind of a holistic view of the park.
Yes.
So the master plan is separate and the playgrounds are moving forward. They're on different, now they're separating in their trajectory.
Okay, so the parking lot is not part of it. The sports complex courts are not part of it. The splash pad is or is not part of it.
That is not part of it. So I think that's one piece I'll clarify. So you can see, Steve, can you kind of zoom in into the plaza in between the two playgrounds? That's the only piece of the playground, that kind of plaza in between the two, that connectivity. The thing we heard in this effort, and I think that really speaks or kind of validates this effort to join the playground planning with the master plan, is that people really want to see connectivity between the 4 play spaces. And I think you mentioned it, Barney, this idea of if you have a family with multiple kids and they all want to play in different play areas, where is that hub, like that place where parents can kind of hang out and see where their kids are. And
Right.
So this is not part of phase 1. This wasn't part of the playground renovation, but is part of the master plan. So that piece of the playground that we kind of covered is master plan and not in phase 1.
Well, so shouldn't we do, Cal, I see you've raised your hand. Shouldn't we do that? And I'm touching my computer screen so you can see me pointing to it. Shouldn't we be doing the 2 blues and Part C so that when we deliver it to the public, there will be a place where I can watch my different grandchildren from going to 2 different parks?
Yeah, so you'll still be able to do that. We're still making some improvements to the connectivity between particularly those 2 playgrounds. So it's improving what is currently existing. One of the things we've asked Hitchcock to do is to provide within their proposal, and we're currently, staff is reviewing it right now, but how much more would it cost to start doing the final design for that area as well, so that we kind of jumpstart and we can also bid that out to see if it's within budget and we can move forward with it all at once. So we are thinking along the same lines of how can we, there is certainly some efficiency of coupling the letter C outline with the playground project.
Okay, thank you. That's what visualizing it, that's what I guess I envisioned. I should use the same word twice in 2 different ways. Cal, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question. This is probably from Malia. So I get it that the playground, that's part of our 5-year capital plan that we budgeted for this year. Are any of the other add-ons, so like you talk about the holistic view of this park, the red areas or the green areas, are any of those right now in our 5-year capital plan, or are they in the green print plan, or we haven't even begun even thinking about how we're going to fund those projects?
This is step 1. So this will then go on to inform capital planning and also will assist us when, if funding opportunities become available.
So we don't have a place card anywhere in our 5-year capital plan for any of those projects?
Not right now, no.
Okay, so I assume
Step 1.
as the project evolves, as the plan evolves, at that point, eventually it will be discussed in tandem with our 5-year capital plan.
Right. We'll review this when we start capital planning this year. And then if and when any of these projects are earmarked, there will be a proper design process for that specific element.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Does anybody, any further questions from our commissioners? So while we're getting this to review and provide any comments on the overall, the 2 areas of concentration that will require approval will be basically the 2 play areas. And that'll be coming to us with budget and details, and we'll need approval. Is that correct, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next meeting. Yep.
All right. I don't see any further questions. Steve, Amalia, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the time and effort of our 2 liaisons.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Have a good evening.
All right. So we will now go to the COVID-19 Emergency Operations Planning Update. Unless, before we do that, anybody, any of our commissioners or staff want to make any further comments about Sunset Woods Park? No one volunteered. Okay.
It's great feedback. Thank you. Would you like me to move on to the COVID-19 Emergency Operations Report?
We're ready.
Oh, okay. This should be quick. I just wanted to give an update. As everyone knows, last week we did move into phase 4 of the Restore Illinois plan, which is really good news for our region, for our community. These new guidelines will allow increased capacities for numerous things that the Park District offers to the community. Simple things such as meetings and social gatherings of 50 guests or less, or a 50% capacity, both indoors and outdoors. And it also allows us to offer more indoor and outdoor programming as long as it's less than 50 people or less than 50% capacity. So as a result, we have restarted many of our originally scheduled winter programs. And I'd like to just highlight a few of goings on in the Park District. So at Centennial Ice Arena, hockey is now permitted to host games, and our primary rental groups, the Falcons and Giants, are updating their schedules. We are also restarting our gymnastics and figure skating programs, and those are underway as we speak. At Deer Creek Racquet Club, our travel tennis teams will resume play, and USTA tournaments are now permitted, in addition to our youth and adult programs, doubles, permanent tee times, and other racket sports. At Heller and the Rosewood Interpretive Center, our outdoor programming and ski rentals have been going very well. And our indoor rentals are now available, less than 50 at Heller Nature Center, and then at Rosewood Interpretive Center, less than 25. At Westridge Center, we're continuing with our Park School program, and that continues to provide just extraordinary enrichment services to our youth, and our programs such as ceramics and martial arts and other art programs have resumed. Our athletic programs are now working in teams again. So our baseball teams are practicing at the Highland Park Fieldhouse, as well as the hitting league that we have over at Deer Creek Racquet Club. And our basketball teams are now training and scrimmaging as well. At the rec center, our indoor floor usage continues to increase very steadily, and we're slightly extending our hours on Saturdays. Beginning this Saturday, we're going to stay open 1 extra hour, so it's not a huge extension, but we are very busy on Saturdays, so this will help a little bit, allow people to get into the rec center on a Saturday. And we're going to continue to monitor those hours as usage increases and evaluate whether or not we need to increase hours. Group exercise also has moved indoors, and we're averaging about 18 classes per week. And those classes are in the gymnasium, so they can spread out, and we have up to 25 people who can take a class at one time. And we have not changed our rules on face coverings. They are required at all times, even while exercising. For those who are not ready to go back into the gym, or maybe just those who want to add some fitness on the go, our rec center team has created a virtual RC on the go platform where we have nearly 100 on-demand videos. And currently we have 84 subscribers. It's only $5 a month. And the best part about it is that $5 is a donation to our Parks Foundation. So overall, we have about 2,000 participants who are active right now in our programs, around 1,200 active fitness members. So we're at about 50% capacity of what we normally are for this time of year pre-COVID. So this is on track with what we anticipated and what we budgeted for the first 6 months of the year. So we are right on pace, and that is in line with, of course, phase 4 guidelines. So if we increase our capacity, of course, we will be able to provide more programming and allow more services to the community. The last things I just want to touch on are our summer camp. We did open up our summer camp registration this last week. We had over 300 registrations so far, so that's just the start. Obviously, we have an early registration discount through February 28th, so we anticipate getting quite a few more registrations. Some camps have already sold out, but there are plenty other camps still open, and staff is actively looking at new ways that we can provide additional camps to make sure that we have opportunities for all our residents to do summer camp this summer. Spring tennis actually begins registration tomorrow for programs that will start in March. And then our other programs that start in April, we have a spring guide that's going to be distributed within the next week. So all in all, for the benefit of our community, we are trending in a very positive direction with being able to offer more programs and services. And we're progressing with great enthusiasm. And of course, we are keeping the health and safety of the residents at the forefront, and things are going very well. Last thing I just want to mention is Sunset Valley Golf Club. As everyone knows, we came off a record year of usage in 2020, and they did a tremendous job of serving the golf community. But they have recently been named one of 10 clubhouses, one of the top 10 clubhouses in all the Chicagoland area. So the Chicago Golf Report put this out, and they named Sunset Valley Golf Club one of the top 10 clubhouses. So that was a tremendous honor to be named, especially considering how many amazing clubhouses there are in the Chicagoland area. And it's an honor just to be named alongside the other 9 that were on that list. So we're really excited about that, and we're really excited to keep our services going and happy to entertain any questions.
Well, I think it goes to say thank you to the commissioners who participated in the work on the course and on the clubhouse. And I think I remember you and Kathy getting into big fights with our architect about colors and textures, and it all paid off. It all paid off.
It's great collaboration.
Exactly. I guess it pays to fight with people, I guess.
Yeah, we called it collaboration.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I got it. That's word. Cal, you have your hand
Some people
raised.
call it fighting.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to learn that word. Cal, you have your hand raised.
I was going to lower it anyway. I just have one question. I may have missed it in the laundry list, but do we have outdoor ice right now?
It just started up. You know, it's definitely cold enough. So we had free skating was up, I think, a week ago, but now the boards are up and hockey is ready to go. Dan Voss, am I right?
Yes, free skate area opened 2 Fridays ago, and the hockey was last Saturday. So it's been a few days now.
Okay, I haven't looked at the website. Just make sure it's posted on the website that it's open.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions, or should we go to review of vouchers? Let's go to review of vouchers then.
Yes, I had an opportunity to review them, President Ruttenberg, and they seemed fine.
Good. I had an opportunity to review them, Commissioner Bernstein, and they were fine. So, Marilyn, the vouchers are fine.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. There is no, unless any of the commissioners or Brian has a request for a closed session, we will not have a closed session. Nope. And is there anything that a commissioner or staff would like to bring up before we seek an adjournment? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
We stand adjourned. Oh, yes.
Aye.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I rushed it.